6 से 10 मिनट। Hello everyone, welcome to GATEFLIX. Today is the day of CAT 2019 and the first slot has just been finished. I hope that you have taken CAT, you have joined this forum. If you have joined this forum, put in some comments. Let me know if you've taken CAT. Let me know what is the feeling. Let me hear from you. I'll be waiting. I'll be waiting for your comments in the chat section. Meanwhile, I'll give you an idea about how this first slot was. Okay, so first talking about the conduction part, CAT has done a great job at conduction. There were no technical glitches. Every every transition, every operation was very smooth. So I believe that has to be the same everywhere across India. So kudos to the CAT and the partners who have given the service. There were no technical glitches recorded anywhere as of now. So that part was very pretty taken care of. Let me come to the test part now. The part which you have been waiting so long. So the overall feeling, or the overall feeling which I got from the students, the overall feeling which I got from my attempt, I think the feeling is very happy. Students are really happy that the paper was not as tough as they expected it to be. Correct. Certainly, some of these sections were easier than the last year. Some of the sections were easier than they are generally anticipated. So let me go section by section. First, let me talk about the verbal ability and reading comprehension part. Now, normally this section is students perceive this section to be easy because they are able to attempt more questions, right? But there were few surprises here, and that made the section a bit less easier than it used to be. So let me talk about the RC part first. Generally, there are 24 questions of RC. That was the same in this paper, but the question breakup it was different this time. So generally, we see that the RC pattern is 3 RCs with 6 questions and 2 RCs with 3 questions. This year, this was changed. Now there were 5 RCs. The length of the RCs was typically 500 to 600 words, and the breakup of the question, that was surprising. The breakup was 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 4. So there were 4 RCs with 5 questions each, and there was 1 RC with 4 questions each, right? So that came as a bit of a surprise to many, that they have changed the pattern of asking the questions. The second surprise was the RC topics were kind of easier than we generally anticipate. So if I give you an idea about the topics, which were they? So there was one topic of the origin of, or the origin or the source of the Aladdin story. There was one RC which discussed the Britain's folk music. There was one RC which discussed the habits of consumers on internet shopping and what influences them, the startups, how do they work. There was one RC on penguins, how do penguins keep their bodies warm, and there was one RC which talked about topophobia and topophilia, basically the relationship people share with the places, right? So if you really talk about the topics, you could see there are topics from literature, you could see there are topics from history and culture, there is a science topic. So the topics were quite easy to understand. The RC, the paragraphs were quite easy to understand. But what came as a surprise to many is that the questions, now the questions were very tricky. So when it comes to RC questions, most of the questions were inference based questions, right? Students are not really fan of this particular genre. In inference based questions, there were 6 questions which had the word except at the end. So that made it very difficult for students to the students really had to take care and read the question twice to understand what is going on. Okay, the options were quite confusing. The options were quite closer to each other. So overall, the section of RC, the part of RC, gave a feeling of a bit of difficult section to the whole VARC section. If I talk about the other part, which is parajumbles, odd one out, and summary. So the standard breakup was there are 4 parajumbles of four sentences each. There were 3 odd one out, and there were 3 summary questions, right? So overall, when I look at this section VARC, I get a feeling that this section was a bit difficult, because you may not realize, students may not realize that it is a difficult section, but when we look at the questions, when we look at the options, we get the feeling that this section was designed that so that it is difficult for majority of the students. Good number of attempts for this section would be close to 25-26 questions. with good 80 plus percent accuracy, that would give you a really good score. Talking about LRDI now. Now LRDI has been a kind of a difficult section for the past 3 years at least. We have seen that there have been years in which only solving 3 sets will give you 99 plus percentile. So that was not the story this time. I think LRDI section was kind of a happy news, kind of a good news for students. Students were able to attempt more questions this time. If I talk about the breakup of the sections, there were two DI sets, and there were rest of them, as in the 6 sets were of LR. The difficulty was, the difficulty was not so much as compared to the last years. So students could really, a prepared student could really identify 4 to 5 sets minimum and solve all those questions. The sets were also of very medium, easy to medium category. You could really read them and understand them. There were no lengthy sets, correct? So when it comes to LR and DI, I believe a prepared student who has a good practice of solving both the kinds of the set will be able to attempt 4 to 5 sets minimum. So here I would say the good number of attempts would be somewhere around 20 to 24 with an overall 80% plus accuracy would fetch you a really good score, correct? So the happy news, which was LRDI, the section which students thought that it will be very difficult, they were really scared of it, came as an easy to medium section, and that continued in the section of quant. So in the section of quantitative aptitude, once again we saw that the section was easier than last year. Students were really happy that they were able to solve a lot of questions. The questions were not lengthy. The questions, they were of 1, 2, 3 liner questions. If I talk about the breakup of the questions, there were majority questions. They were from arithmetic part. So there were questions from percentage, profit and loss, ratio. There were questions from allegation, mixture, average, partnership. Then comes geometry. So in geometry, there were questions of coordinated geometry. There were questions of let's say circles. There were the questions of triangles. Surprisingly, there was a question having cos theta. So it was a trigonometry question. There was just one question asking you to find the range for a particular function. So geometry had a good number of questions in them. Then comes the part which is algebra. So you had questions of linear equation, you had questions of functions, you had questions of inequalities. All right. So overall, the section of maths, the section of quant gave a very good feeling because students were able to attempt a lot of questions, correct? Because what mattered was speed, right? So any good student, any prepared student would be able to attempt close to 24, 26 questions, again with an accuracy of 80 plus percentage, will fetch you a really good score, correct? So if I have to put CAT 2019 first slot in one category, I would say it was somewhere around easy to medium, with only the verbal section seemingly difficult, but both the latter sections, that is LRDI and quantitative aptitude, they were really easy. Any prepared student would be able to attempt an overall questions of, let's say for example, I would expect 65 to 70 would be a really good number of questions that one should attempt minimum to ensure a score of 95 plus percentile, correct? So that is the first cut analysis of CAT 2019 first lot here on GATEFLIX. You have been one of the earliest ones to see this. I hope that your attempt was really good. I hope that you have attempted more number of questions. If you have some chat, some comments, let me see. Uh, Rita says that strategies did not work out well today. Yes, Rita, you are right, because students did not really expect an easy section of LRDI. Students did not really expect a difficult section of verbal. So generally, in the verbal section, students really feel that let me attempt 30 plus, let me attempt 32 plus, correct? But in today's section, there were very confusing questions. The options were very close to each other. So I believe you had to restrict yourself in verbal today. At the same time, in LRDI, where you expect yourself to be attempting minimum, here you will be able to attempt 5 to 6 or 4 to 5 sets. So in LRDI and quant, it was really a test of your speed, correct? You had to attempt at least 20 plus questions in both the sections, correct? So that is what you had to do. Smart study point, it's asking which part of quant is most important. So I believe the most important part was arithmetic, correct? So in arithmetic, and also if I club numbers with that, so here you are able to cover close to 15 to 18 questions when you cover arithmetic and numbers. So that is the most important part when it comes to CAT. The second part would definitely be geometry in this paper. So geometry had good number of questions. The third part would be algebra, in which you had questions from functions, inequalities. Log had two questions. Set theory was there. Progressions was there. Correct. So the paper had a good mix of all the questions, but once again, arithmetic champs, all of them. You solve arithmetic part and you are able to solve at least 12 to 15 questions with good accuracy. So that is what my answer to the second comment that I have. So keep on commenting. We will be able to reply to all of your queries. Keep on commenting about your attempts. What did you feel? Did you feel that the section of EARC was tricky? Did you feel that LRDI and quant were easy? Tell us what you feel, and we'll be able to give you more accurate answers. So thank you for watching this video. I hope that watching this video has been fruitful. If you are somebody who has CAT in the second slot, that is 3 to 6, 2:30 to 5:30, sorry. So if you have CAT in your second slot, I believe just be open to anything which may come in the paper. Do not be biased. That is all what we have learned from the first slot. Do not be biased. Do not feel that verbal section is going to be easy. Do not have a bias that LRDI section is going to be tough. Be open to what the paper throws at you. That is how you crack CAT. You face the situation and then you decide on the spot what you are going to do. All the best.